And joining me now is the retired three-star U.S. Army Lieutenant General Keith Kellogg. He's also the former special presidential envoy on Ukraine and the co-chair of American Security at the America First Policy Institute. General, always a pleasure. Thank you for coming in.
Thanks, Ed, for having me. I do appreciate it.
Big news today, this 60-day ceasefire between U.S. and Iran. It seems to suggest that the Strait of Hormuz is getting open finally. U.S. officials seem positive about this memorandum of understanding. The markets seem to like it, but what say you?
Yeah, look, Ed, he's the president of the United States. I mean, I read the Constitution as well as anybody. And the fact is, I didn't get any electoral college votes. You know, he's going to make the final call to do it. But I am concerned because it's right in their playbook. What I mean today, the Iranians and the Revolutionary Guards. And as long as you keep this theocratic government in charge, they're going to come back to this in a year or 2 years. And if you, in the near term, I'd be worried about losing Congress if this thing extends and there's no real resolution to this. But their gameplay is to delay. You know, this goes back to years ago when Dean Smith was at UNC in basketball,
right,
and he used to four corners and he'd run a game out. I mean, they didn't have a shot clock at that time. And I get very, very concerned about it. You know, I am sure, look, I'm sure Congress will get involved as well, but I keep running back to where John Adams, our second president, said, you know, one useless man is unfortunate, two useless men is a law firm, and three useless men or more is Congress. And I'm afraid that they're involved in it as well. So I think, you know, I just sent a cautionary note to the president. He's the key guy. He makes all those calls. I didn't get electoral college votes. We're just noise level. But I'd caution really quite heavily that making any agreement with these guys is fraught with danger.
So where does that leave us then? What would you recommend to the president? He is the guy who got the electoral college votes. He won in a landslide. The commander-in-chief's going to make the call. But if he called you up right now, it doesn't sound like you like a 60-day extension on a ceasefire. It doesn't seem like you think any deal signed with Iran is worth the paper it's printed on. So does that mean that General Kellogg thinks we have to go in the U.S. military and, as the president said yesterday, have Secretary of War Pete Hegseth, quote unquote, finish the job? Is that what needs to happen?
Yeah, count me as a hardliner on this one, but I think what you have to do is you don't invade Iran, but you can take key strategic targets like Karg Island, because what you want to do is economically crush them. And that's what they're making some hard calls about, is this government will fall if you keep pushing the economic piece. And then when you basically control their economics, you get that way. And right now, if by opening up the Strait of Hormuz, you allow them breathing space economically, they're going to rebuild their combat forces. The longer it goes, it makes it harder and harder to take some type of decisive action. And it's right in their game plan. You know, when you look at Arachi, who's their foreign minister, he wrote the book on negotiations. And I would caution people, read the book, see what he's saying. He's right in his classic game plan of this is what Iran does. And I'm really worried that our negotiators are walking in there with their eyes closed, not with their eyes open. And I think they're going to tell the president some things that sound good, but aren't good for the long term. Not good for me and you, we don't really count, but for our grandkids. Because you want to get rid of this regime, and you want to make sure that they don't get to use this enriched uranium they've got to make and potentially make a weapon out of it. And I think they will.
So what's your timetable? Because when you were talking about the Iranians trying to run out the clock, it sounded like you were talking about they want to get it to the midterms, and then the president might, in their plans, pull out because politically he'll want to you know, get this thing done with before the midterms. But is there a longer play here where they just want to wait him out for the next 2.5 years? Or what's the timeline for you? How do we fix this?
Well, look, I was in the first administration, and the concern I've got for the midterms, that's me, is the fact that if Congress flips for some ungodly reason, that they will try to impeach him again. I've lived through that. You know, and the American people just know that they've heard the president got impeached. He's not going to get convicted. But the fact is, the sheer impeachment is bad enough as it is. And they will do that. That's the problem with politics here in Washington, D.C. You'll see that happen. I mean, you talk about a group of people that truly have Trump derangement syndrome. Yeah. It's the U.S. Congress.
Right. And so you want the president now. to grab the bull by the horns maybe and have some decisive action and not wait for those 535 secretaries of state there up there on the Hill. General Kellogg, I get the point. We appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thanks, Ed.